Now I am very glad to invite all of you to Comrade Media's cultural program In Pursuit of Roots. Now we are going to have the 20th episode entitled Wars Depicted in Sangham Literature, presented by Dr. Mohan Varughese. So sir will be giving us the details of such ancient wars. Sir.
Yes.
How were the wars fought by the kings directly in those days in the Sangham period?
How means, can I show the signals and all that? Can I show? What's the the war?
So your description is picturesque.
Yeah,
Therefore
adequately
I tell
picturesque.
this.
Right. Right. War was a very favorite theme for the poets
Of a Sangham
poets.
literature.
They have a very vivid narration of the war, the historical wars that are depicted in the Sangham poetry. Predominantly Purananura, and some wars happened in the Patitipata. So Purananura, the collection of 400 poems that deals with statecraft, diplomacy, war and foreign relations. That is the source of information about wars during Sangham period. Okay, and also from Patitipata, about which we dealt in another episode. Okay, wars have been like what you suggested. Wars were fought on the basis of certain rules those days. Now no war is declared. Those days the wars were sort of declared by cutting the tree, which is the sacred tree of a given kingdom. See, Vaga can be one sacred tree. Teak can be another sacred tree. The Maharajas, those days the kings had a tendency of planting the national tree at the border to indicate that this is the end of my reign, the end of the my suzerainty, my territory. And another territory starts. When an intruder, the neighboring king, wants to invade, the first signal, the first declaration of the war is the cutting of the tree.
That particular tree?
That is particular, that
standing on the border.
Standing on the border, at the border. So that is indication that the country is in war. Then that is something which is informed by Otteller. Otteller means the messengers.
Messenger.
Maybe you can call them secret agents, and they are involved in espionage. Diplomats actually, secret agents and diplomats and Otteller. They are called Otteller. They will inform, and then the war preparation would begin. So that is how the wars would begin. And when the war begins, the war clouds are on, the king will make preparations. The Chera king never had a standing army. Never ever had a standing army. They would send information to the Chitta Rajanmar, Kurunila Mannans and Worls and other
the so-called subordinates.
So-called subordinates who constitute the Chera empire. They will be allotted a quota. Maybe 100 soldiers will be provided by a small chieftain. 1,000 soldiers may be provided by another bigger Naduvari. Or one Kirar will be providing another 20-25 soldiers. Some will be sending 100 elephants. Some may be providing some weapons. And different segments of population also take part in war. Some Kollan, that is the blacksmith. And some even farmers with agricultural weapons will be trained on the spot and sent to war. So war was never fought by organized armies.
All
So that was-
people from all walks of life participated.
People from all walks of life participated in war. In fact,
that is a specialty.
that's a specialty. But basically, the fighters come from the Marava clan, Marava community. Marava,
Chiefly from them.
they are thugs and plunderers and bandits and dacoits. But during wartime, their services are solicited by the king.
By the king.
In fact, the king himself ideally came from that community. That is what we would we are made to
We
understand.
mentioned it later.
Earlier we mentioned it. And an interesting occurrence takes place then. All these people will be called together in an open place, and the king will conduct a huge party. Delicious food made of rice and meat and fish, everything will be served. Plenty of liquor will be served. Drink as much as you want, eat as much as you want.
Bada khana.
Bada khana, we mentioned about Udiyan Cheralathan who provided parties and
sending food packets to Kurukshetra.
Food packets to Kurukshetra.
That we mentioned.
Munnir is a kind of kind of liquor. Munnir. Munnir is made of three kinds of fermented liquids. That is munnir, very tasty thing. And Teral is another kind of liquor those days, portrayed by Sangham literature. We get an idea about the kind of liquor and kind of food. Oon chore, nei ven chore, all the kind of special kind of rice like our biryani served. So then they eat, they munch their way to glory, and they sleep, and then the next day war begins.
Wars were not a horrible thing then. Wars were being celebrated as a festival.
It was celebration time, sir. Yeah, it was celebration time. Right. Wars were celebrated. Wars provided a means of subsistence to several segments like Panar, who would be making songs and praising kings during war. Live praising, live songs.
That is a kind of commentary.
It's a kind of commentary. The kings, the heroics, the past heroics they motivate the king. They accompany the army in the battlefield. See, people like Panar, who coin poetry, who prepare poetry, and they sing also. Kutar, who dance. And their wives and children, the women folk of Kutar, are called Viralis. Virali. They dance. They cheer. They are cheer girls who dance.
Simultaneously with the war.
And they make some noise called Kuravai. Kuravai Kute, they call it. Girls make a kurava, the sound, and men would be dancing, and some of the viralis, the ladies, will also be dancing. It is all very picturesque scene. That is and when the king wins, king is always on top of an elephant, huge elephant. And when king wins, the impression of winning, Vennikuta means Venni means victory. When victory kurava. Some trumpeting and some dance and
Vennikuda.
This is Vennikuta. Kuta means dance. Vennikuta. And Tunkanai Kuta is another kind of dance. And musical instruments are used in plenty. Tumbe, Kudal, Kombe, Yare, Midava, all
these sounds and dances encourage the warriors.
They motivate the warriors. The warriors fight fiercely.
They're forgetting everything.
They forget everything. Their ladies would come. The wives and children and concubines of the fighters would come and cheer them. And when a warrior falls down, his wife or lover would sit near him. And till the end would sit, nobody else will touch. Sit near the end so that the evil spirit, near the body, so that the dead soul will have moksha. So evil spirit won't come
Get
and
entry into
inhibit
heaven.
the body.
Get entry into heaven.
They will unleash a wailing sound. They make huge wailing sound. They pump the chest and then the wail. Very, very loud noise, wailing. That's all a show. It was the grief, they expressed the grief in such a profound manner that the entire atmosphere is electric. And at least that is the impression that we get by reading of Purananuru and Paditipatha. That is Sangha literature. So this is the thing.
The dying man acquires Veerasorgam.
Dying man acquires, it was considered as a great privilege to die in war.
Oh.
And also kings, kings want to die in battle rather than having a natural death.
Oh.
And they also want to emerge winners in war. Imagine a king getting a wound on his back. If you get a wound in the back, that means king is retreating, and somebody
at that time probably
otherwise you won't get a wound in the back. So that is considered as an insult. One Chera king, there was an example in Puram 64 and Puram 65. Purananura 64th and 65th poems depict Udiyan Cheraladan, who was
we mentioned in the previous
episode. But Udiyan Cheraladan died by Vadakirikkel.
Sitting on north side.
He was involved in a war with the Cholan, and he got injured on his back. And just such a small wound, which was not big enough, but he could have still fought. But he refused to fight from that moment onwards. Udiyan Cheraladan sat on a stone facing north. Vadaka means north. With drawn sword in his hand. He sat there until he was too tired. War continued. And then ultimately he committed suicide by falling on top of the drawn sword. So that is called what
a slight wound was not
even a slight wound. It won't kill the person,
but he took it as an insult.
So pride. This poem, see, Purananuru, depicts kings who are very proud people. Probably they were cruel, but they were proud also. They defended their people, the kingdom, and they would not take any insult. They would rather end their life. Suicide. That's what they do. So that is the inference that you get from because the moment king is captured in the war, the most unexpected thing will happen. The nastiest thing will happen.
What happens after the defeat of a king? What happens to their country?
In case the king is captured, the war ends at that moment. First thing that they do is to mutilate the body of the king. His teeth will be plugged and his body completely deformed and mutilated. All the weapons, normally the king...
By the winners, of course.
The winner takes it all.
The
winner would take the gold ornaments and the battle gear. King would be highly adorned with ornaments, gold ornaments. The big time chains and then bracelets and the rings, everything heavily clad with gold. And all these gold will be taken by the winning king and he will make a crown.
Melting that.
And he will make a crown. And if a person wants to become Adhiraja title, that is, if you defeat 7 such contemporary kings, equals, 7 equals, he will wear an Eju Mudi Patakam. 7 kings. Eju Mudi means 7 titles, 7 jewels affixed on the crown
locket
and will wear it, showing that I have become an emperor. King of kings. So this is another tendency. So honor was very important. So no king would want to die, and if he dies, his wives and concubines will become the property of the winning king, and his land will be scorched. burnt completely, and women raped. The women's hair would be taken, cut will be taken, and will be made kind of vadam, that big coir like thing, rope.
Rope.
And that rope will be used to draw the chariot of the winning king. So such was the cruelty and the brutality committed during. That is why they wanted to win. They want to die in battle. There's nothing for a loser. Loser will not have anything. Or the loser will have to admit defeat and join en bloc with the winning team. So there was no human rights angle those days. So such was the condition depicted by the Sangham literature.
It seems so cruel.
Yeah, very, 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 very cruel.
In spite of all the glorious details mentioned in the previous romance, chivalry, everything.
Right.
Those details seemed very glorious. This is pathetic.
Very pathetic, very pathetic. Even number of instances have been cited of war. Ejimala Nannan was brutally attacked by Chera king Narmudi Cheral. Kalankai Kanni Narmudi Cheral. That battle was depicted in the fourth poem
of
fourth poem by a poet. And another war in which the Nidum Cheral was involved in a battle with the Chola king. And they all were on elephant top. Chola king on one elephant top, Chera king, that is Nidum Cheral. The other one is Karinkala Chola king. And they were fighting a pitched battle, direct battle between two kings. And kings had bodyguards surrounding. And both were throwing spears. And both died. Together. War ended in a draw. But both kings died.
So that is animals also participated.
Animals also participated.
What kinds of weapons they used?
See, animals used were horses brought from abroad. No horse would be reared here. Horses have to come from the West Asia,
outside,
from through the ship or by land. Somehow horses were very highly prized, but horses were not in huge number, but small number horses. But huge number of elephants. Elephants, war victory predominantly based on the number of elephants at the possession of the king. So if Pandyan has more number of elephants, Pandyan will win. And because elephants can travel on all terrains, jungle and swampy land, and also in water and in level land. Those days it was waterlogged. Entire area was something like a swamp. No level land.
Marshy places.
Not marshy places. It's not like the present day Kerala. 2000 years back during Sangham period, it was marshy land. So elephants would come in very handy. And battle formation was three circles were there. Outermost circle, a few kilometers, maybe 20 square kilometer radius. They will be having will padai. Will means bow and arrow. And archers would be on treetop, aiming and looking for enemies. And they will try to defend the borders. Archers, that is called the will padai. Then comes the whale padai. Whale means spear.
Inner.
Whale. They throw whale. That is the spear. That is inner circle.
Inner circle.
Innermost circle is consisted of wal padai. Wal means sword. Just around the king and king's elephants, wal padai. Piercing that wal padai, enemy has to get into the Chakraviham, into the king's.
Piercing all these three layers.
Piercing all three layers. So it was a very difficult kind of a process to win the war. If the well padai, will padai and wal padai were properly organized, it is impenetrable. Impenetrable, yeah. That is that's a battle formation. We get an impression about battle formation also from the Sangham literature. Yeah.
We have learnt about the nature of the wars fought in those period. In spite of the other glorious cultural activities of the period, this gives us some kind of pain, and it seems horrible Even then, we have to know, we have got a good knowledge about the walls of that period, entirely different from our walls. So thank you, sir,
Yeah.
for this new information. Thank you everybody for listening to us.
Thank you very much.
We'll be meeting in the next episode.